All right, everybody, we're at 12:02, so I think we'll get started. Again, thank you for joining us today for our webinar on using a book as your business card. My name is Tammara Kennelly, and I'm the president here at FriesenPress, and I'll be happy to be spending the next 30 to 45 minutes with you. The plan for the next 45 minutes will be that I'll be presenting content for the next 20 minutes, essentially talking to you a little bit about the uses and the benefits of a book as a business card, how to write that book, and how to self-publish that book. And then the final 10 minutes, we'll be joined by Cheryl Baldwin. Let's see here, my slides aren't advancing. There we go. So imagine if your 30-second elevator pitch sounded like this. Hi, I'm Cheryl Baldwin with WSI, and I recently published a book on digital marketing that sold almost 80,000 copies. Would you like a free copy? I'm thrilled to have Cheryl join us. She's one of FriesenPress's published authors, and she's had incredible success with her book as a business card. Cheryl joined WSI in 2003 and has over 12 years of experience in digital marketing. As the Director of Marketing Communications, Cheryl manages the ongoing development of marketing strategies, programs, and collateral for the WSI Consultant Network. She's also responsible for WSI's corporate communications, social channels, and brand strategies, including the WSI Digital Minds book that she'll speak about today. Overall, Cheryl's focus is really on ensuring that WSI builds a strong and consistent brand as a top digital marketing company. So thank you, Cheryl, for joining us, and I look forward to having you chime in the last 10 minutes. And then Cheryl and I will stay on the line, and we're happy to answer any questions that may arise after the webinar. So the idea of the book as a business card is really not a new concept. In fact, it's been around for decades. However, with recent advances in technology in the publishing industry, it's made the concept of the book as a business card more accessible to the average professional than ever before. So let's talk about a little bit about those technological advances. The first one that I would reference is the idea of print on demand. So 20 years ago, if you were to publish a book, you would finish your book, and the only way that you could have printed copies in hand would be to do a very large print run, which is expensive. Those books would be printed anywhere from 500 to 1,000 on up, depending on the minimum that the manufacturer specified. They would print those books, they would ship them to you, those books would land in your garage. Certainly you would distribute a number of those books, but generally those large print runs were more targeted towards the traditional author that had wide distribution. Generally, a lot of those copies in your garage would go to recycling, not a great investment, and it made publishing inaccessible to many. With the advent of print-on-demand printing, you can now publish a book, you can distribute it as an ebook, and never have any print copies at all. With the advent of technology, you're also able to distribute that book to over 35,000 online retailers and only print one copy at a time as orders come in. So as you can imagine, this has made this idea of publishing a book as a business card much more accessible and affordable than ever before. I think the other technological advancement that I would note is that of the publishing platforms that are now available to authors, especially with ebooks becoming so prevalent in the market. There are a lot of platforms that, if you are technologically savvy and if you are confident to navigate the self-publishing process, you could essentially publish an ebook for free. Of course, moving through that spectrum of self-publishing, you can also work with companies like FriesenPress, who's considered a fully assisted self-publishing company, where we will walk you through all the steps and help you produce the most professional-looking book that we can. It's important to note that your book as a business card is really a different strategy than it would be for the average author. The average author produces what they think is going to be a bestseller. They market and distribute that book heavily, and they expect to generate an income off the royalties generated from books sold. When you're doing a book as a business card, the intention is not to derive an income from the sale of the book. More so, it's about sharing a relevant idea that captures your audience's attention and drives them to phone you and connect with you to pay for your professional services. Now, having said that, there are a number of authors who have done a book as a business card. They may offer it as a free ebook initially and then change it to a paid subscription and generate income off of those sales through royalties. The book as a business card is also unique in that your audience isn't just a reader. Your audience is really those that are going to subscribe or purchase your professional services. So we're talking about the CEOs of the world that are the decision makers around purchasing services, in particular professional services, the agents who are the connectors for people wanting to buy your services, investors, startups. So the audience is definitely unique when you're using your book as a business card. Really, the idea, though, behind a book as a business card is that you have an interesting idea and you want to be able to share that. You're looking for a vehicle to share that interesting idea and get it out to the right audience. So I want to get your creative juices flowing a little bit around who might want to write a book as a business card. And in my opinion, I think there's a business case to be made for any professional that's selling their services to do a book as a business card. But let's talk about a few examples. And of course, Cheryl will join us later, and I think she's one of the best examples of how to use this effectively. So let's say you're an advisor working in Silicon Valley. Maybe you're a CFO, maybe you are somebody who has a great system for attracting investment dollars, and you want to share that idea. So you do a book as a business card, you distribute it throughout Silicon Valley. A lot of the startups will perhaps take a free copy of your book, think that your system sounds great, and want to work with you as a professional to leverage investment dollars. You will advise them and support them in successfully securing those dollars and perhaps take an equity share in the company. One of the widest use cases for a book as a business card is professional speakers who really want to showcase their storytelling ability and use that book to attract speaking opportunities. Certainly bloggers wanting to build their following uses a book as a business card. Experts wanting to build their practice. And when I say experts, there's such a wide variety of people that fall into that category, whether it be a doctor, a scientist, a researcher, a principal at a school. There are a number of people that fall into this category. Certainly professionals seeking employment are another great business case for using a book as a business card. Imagine being somebody in the hiring seat and you're flipping through resumes and you get this package and it's got a book, and the book looks professional and beautiful and intelligent. It showcases some interesting ideas and concepts. It certainly will make you stand out in the pile. But at the end of the day, it's really about having a product, an idea, or a vision that stands out amongst your competitors. It makes you unique. So really, what is this book as a business card all about? What does it do for you? Well, first of all, it's a great branding device for your business. I think when you present people with a book, it's a credibility signal. It says, take me seriously, I'm a professional, I have some interesting ideas, and I've invested time into showcasing that. Definitely, again, as a speaker, it displays your strong storytelling skills. It gives you an ability to share relevant ideas. For traditionally published authors, if you've ever watched somebody who's gone through that process, you know that with traditional publishers, it can take years for you to have your book picked up, developed, and even once it's developed, the delay can be anywhere from 1 to 2 years for them to get it onto their release calendar. If you have a relevant idea that's timely to what's going on in today's environment, it's important to get that idea out there quickly, and self-publishing allows you to do that. A book as a business card is a fantastic lead generation tool. It's a great leave behind. So I'm going to ask you guys, picture yourself at that last networking event that you were at, and you're shaking hands and you're talking to people and you're collecting business cards. You get home at the end of the night. Most of the conversations are a blur. You don't remember their names. You're not sure what they did, and you toss the business cards in the garbage. Now, imagine yourself at that same networking event with a book in hand or a link to your ebook. You have a conversation around it. That person walks away. They're probably going to remember your name. They're probably going to remember what you talked about. They're definitely not going to throw that book into the garbage. They may read it. They certainly, if they read it and feel you have compelling ideas, will start talking about you, and they may pass that book on for other people to read. So it's certainly a more effective leave behind than a business card, and there are a lot of studies that say it's also more effective than any old billboard or resume. So why would you want to do a book as a business card? Well, again, as we said, receiving a free book is memorable and people will hang on to it. People share books, and that's important. You really want that multiplication factor, have your ideas out there, generate significant word of mouth. It definitely, as we said earlier, is a credibility signal and allows you to increase your fees. It establishes you as an expert. It definitely will help you build a following. We know that one of the most successful strategies for marketing yourself is in social media. Social media is certainly cheap, it's accessible, and it's widely used. So building a following on those social media platforms. A book is a great way to attract media attention, and we'll talk about that a bit on the next slide. It's a great way to book speaking engagements, and finally, it's a great way to increase your sales either for your product or your service. So we talk a little bit about word of mouth and the fact that when you release a book, generally hand in hand with that book release is a press release. And that press release can result in great media coverage, not only around the book, but because you're branding your business with that book, it's some visibility for your business. It's great with book reviews to get some visibility out there. You may find that you're booking yourself for radio or TV or media interviews. You may find that people are writing feature stories either about your business, your book, or the ideas within it. So it's definitely, a great way to develop new revenue streams. And I say that, and I want to kind of tie in that idea of compound interest. You probably learned as, a teenager and as you got your first job, that value of compound interest in banking. You have $10, you put it in a savings account, it generates $2 in interest, and now you have $12 in your account, and that $12 is generating interest. And so your savings account grows and grows based on compound interest. I liken that same idea, that same concept to the book as a business card. When you're at those networking events, it's a one-to-one relationship. You're talking to one person, you're handing out your card to one person, and it's a pretty captive audience. When you write a book and you release that book across 35,000 online retail sites worldwide, it opens up a market to you of millions of people, a really diverse audience, many of which you would have never met or connected with. So your book really speaks for you and creates that compound interest through book sales, through people reading your book, passing it on, and talking about your ideas. And finally, I think the book as a business card is a really effective tool because it has such a great margin for attracting new business. Think about the traditional marketing methods that your business might use to attract new prospects, whether that be through Google AdWords, print marketing, digital marketing, brochures, printed materials of any sort. It's a fairly expensive strategy to employ. When you think about doing a book as a business card, your investment is anywhere from $0 if you're confident enough to do the writing yourself and navigate the do-it-yourself publishing platform, anywhere up to $10,000 if you really want a lot of support, a lot of help, and a beautiful professional looking product at the end. Regardless, the investment that you're making is certainly lower than traditional marketing approaches. So it's definitely cost effective. So maybe, sorry, my slides are a little bit out of control here. So maybe I've sold you on the idea of a book as a business card, and you're thinking that this is a great idea and it's one that you want to take advantage of, but you're not really sure how to head out on the road of writing the book. It's a fairly scary thought to write a book, especially if you're not a writer and you haven't done it before. I want you to keep in mind, first of all, that trade books that you pick up in chapters are generally about 50,000 words. That's a lot of writing. It's a lofty goal. Your book as a business card is generally about 1/10 that size. So let's do the math, and that turns out to be about 5,000 words that you need to write. Certainly makes that goal a lot more attainable for somebody that hasn't written in the past. And when you break down those 5,000 words and you've already got the concept idea in your head, you're an expert, you understand it inside and out, it's a reasonable goal to think that you could produce that book within a weekend. Now, let's make this even less threatening and more accessible. Keep in mind that typically about 50% of people that buy a book ever read it. And that's books in general. That's an industry standard. So, people will pick up your book, it's already a credibility signal that you're somebody with an interesting idea. They may never read it, but just the fact that you've written it, people are going to assume that you're somebody to work with, somebody interesting, somebody professional, just because you wrote the book before they even crack it open. Generally, a book as a business card is written either as a nonfiction book, which I think we've talked about at length here. You have an interesting idea or some expertise that you want to share. Or it can be written as a memoir. If you're a storyteller trying to showcase your storytelling abilities to attract speaking opportunities, then you'd be looking at doing a memoir. Regardless of the type of book you write, make sure that it's relevant to your business. So as you embark on down that path to write your book, one of the pieces of advice I would give you, and to start early thinking about before you even write the book, is that you really want to infuse that book with authority. When you walk into the bookstore, the average trade paperback will have that typical back of the book blurb that is a summary of what the book is about. It will generally have a blurb that talks about who the author is. With the advent of the book as a business card, that's not generally what you're going to see on the back of the book or the inside flaps. Generally, what you're going to see is that the author has secured a foreword written by somebody in the industry that has some clout, that's seen as a leader in the industry, providing some social proof that your book is interesting and worth reading. You're also going to want to reach out to your industry peers to secure reviews, whether that be reviews that you include in your media, on your website, on your book, or perhaps you're asking for reviews on Amazon and Goodreads and other sites like that that lend credibility to your book. You're also going to want to secure some blurbs from your industry peers. The book as a business card on the back cover generally doesn't have a summary of the book. Rather, it's quite covered with blurbs from other industry peers that talk about the credibility and the usefulness of your ideas in the book. And finally, trying to secure some editorial reviews. So your book as a business card is a marketing tool. We've talked about that. So it's important to understand that this is a sale that you're trying to secure. Don't be shy to ask for the business and close the sale. So this means infusing into the back of your book a plug that asks for the business and takes the reader to your landing page where you can collect their personal details and follow up with them. So maybe I've convinced you that you're going to take a shot at writing your own book. Maybe it still seems like too daunting of a task for you. Well, there's a couple of other possibilities. Number one, I might recommend reading a few books on how to write a book. You may choose to take a writing course, and FriesenPress has recently partnered with Inspire a Book, a great company that takes authors through many levels of writing, and you can subscribe to the most basic services all the way through to the most elegant of services. And there's more information about that on our website, and we're happy to connect you with them. But again, if even with some support you don't feel you want to write the book, keep in mind that close to half of all books on the market are ghostwritten. And certainly, from a financial investment perspective, there are multiple levels available to you for support in writing your book, all the way through to hiring an English major at the local university, right through to hiring a very professional ghostwriter. They're going to want to spend a good chunk of time with you, interviewing you, understanding what your concepts are, helping you to create that layout for the book, that structure, and then populating the structure for you. And your name will go on the book. That's why they call it ghostwriting. So somebody else writes your ideas and your name goes on the book. So we've talked about why you would want to do a book as a business card and the benefits. We've talked a little bit about the writing process. Let's assume you get to the end of that cycle and your manuscript is written and you're ready to publish it. I can tell you I've been in self-publishing for a number of years, and still every day I'm learning something new. And even when I learn it, as quickly as I do, it changes. Self-publishing is a fairly daunting path to need to navigate. And so about 2 months ago, FriesenPress did a great webinar. It's about an hour long, and it talks to you about how to navigate that self-publishing path and bring your book to market. And the webinar really covers everything from do it yourself, not hiring anybody, and how to navigate that path, through to hiring a fully assisted self-publisher like FriesenPress to support you through that process. So after the webinar, we'll be sending out a follow-up email that will contain a link to that webinar. I encourage you to have a look at it, and at the end, our contact details are there. Feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to support you and provide you with further information. With that, that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I want to bring on Cheryl Baldwin. She's such a success story using this approach, and I'd love for her to share her story. And again, keep in mind, at the end, we will be saving time for questions. You'll be able to type your questions in, and we're happy to field them. So with that, Cheryl, I welcome you to our webinar. The floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Tammara, for having me. Really excited to be on here and just share our story with everyone on the webinar today. I think before we get started, I just want to give a context of who we are, because we're a little bit different of a company than some of the individual companies or writers on the call, and so I just want to set a tone for why we did a book and how it worked, and how other companies could do it as well. I mean, just so you know, we're a digital marketing company. We offer digital marketing services to businesses all over the world, but we also happen to be a franchisor that provides individuals with the opportunity to start their own digital marketing agency. So we have a huge network of consultants that are looking to expand our brand in various regions. And we thought the book was a great way to really get that kind of brand and our expertise out there. So we wrote a book, and maybe Tammara, just pass on to the next slide. In case you haven't seen or heard the book, I mean, there's a visual here, but our book is called Digital Minds, 12 Things Businesses Need to Know About Digital Marketing. And it was published just around 2 years ago, in August of 2013. So we're just coming up to 2 years. And so you might be asking, well, why did you guys feel the need to write a book? And so for those not in our industry, though other industries are very similar to ours, it's very competitive. And so we are dealing with anyone from high-end marketing agencies to low-end do-it-yourselfers when it comes to who we're competing with for business. And so I know there's a number of other industries out there that are just as competitive. And we really wanted to set ourselves apart from both of these levels of the spectrum, and decided writing our own book on digital marketing and gearing it towards our target audience was a great way to do this. And basically there was 3 main objectives for doing it. The first was brand credibility. So we wanted to help reinforce that WSI is a leading expert in digital marketing industry, just because it's so competitive out there. I mean, in our industry, anyone can put up a blog post or tweet something on a daily basis, but it does take some actual time and effort to actually put a book together and publish it. So we wanted to, demonstrate that we've taken time and effort to showcase our expertise. We also wanted to make sure our clients were educated on why they needed our services. I mean, there is a need sometimes for our clients to really understand what it is that they're looking for when it comes to our services and why they would need them. So we wanted to help them, educate them on that, as well as we wanted to provide our consultants with an effective sales and marketing tool as well. They're independently owned and operated businesses, so they need tools and resources to really promote themselves and promote the brand in their local market. So those were kind of the 3 things we were really gearing our goals around when we wrote the book, and why we wrote the book. If you can just move to the next slide, Tammara, I'll talk a little bit about, how our consultants use the book. Tammara talked a lot about the different ways that you can use the book as a business card. Some of the ways that we primarily use it is as a giveaway at speaking events. So our consultants may be speaking at events themselves, and they give it away as part of as a thank you for attending their session, or at trade shows that they may be attending and exhibiting at. They do use it to actually incentivize leads to book appointments with them. So kind of as a foot in the door mechanism to get an appointment booked. Like Tammara mentioned, definitely as a business card, as a key leave behind at every client meeting to help us stay top of mind. Like she said, No one's really going to throw away a book, and this allows us to stay on someone's desk, see the brand, and just reconnect with us in a meaningful way. And then, of course, they actually use it as a thank you gift. They work with clients on an ongoing basis, maintain long relationships with their clients, and so as a thank you gift to their best clients, they'll actually gift the entire staff or office with books just to kind of, show gratitude for their clients enlisting their services. So how our book came together uh, was, I mean, maybe a little bit different of a process, but as a brand looking to publish a book, we were looking to create a book on behalf of a brand, not an individual person. But we also wanted to demonstrate our expertise as a whole network. So we didn't want to really take the approach of corporate writing a book, getting it published, and sending it out. We really wanted to showcase the overall expertise across our network. So we actually worked to get our consultant community to write the book. And so we actually have 12 chapters in the book, and we have 12 different authors in the book. So our first part of the process was just we determined the focus and chapters of the book just to keep a focus to the book. But then we selected our WSI consultants in our network that we knew had expertise in specific areas and could write really great chapters around different digital marketing services. Those consultants then wrote the individual chapters at their end. These guys have been in business, way longer than I have for sure, and so they have great expertise, and we wanted to make sure that they were able to explain that and capture it. They then submitted it back to us. So while we were publishing 12 different authors, we also wanted to have a consistent flow to the book and somewhat of a consistent voice to the book. So corporately, we did review and edit and create the final manuscript at our end. And then from there, we worked with FriesenPress to get the book published. So if you can move to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit just about why we chose Friesen. I know Tammara kind of talked a little bit about self-publishing advantages. And so when we first started talking about writing a book, I was really tasked with doing some research on publication. We had never done anything like this before. We didn't really know where to start. So I was kind of just doing some general research online and speaking to other individuals who had gone through the process. And, just through our research, we decided the self-publishing or assisted self-publication was a really good fit for us. It allowed us, like Tammara said, it kept our overall cost down on having to have like the book pre-printed and have copies available in stores, because we could fulfill orders on demand. So there wasn't that upfront cost, and that would really appeal to us because this was something we were doing for the first time. While I was able to research and kind of find out about generally what you needed to do with the self-publishing and get a book published, I really didn't know where to start. I don't come from a book publishing background at all, neither did any of our staff internally, so we really needed some sort of guidance across that. And the publishing package that we used with Friesen really had everything we needed to get started. And because they had a dedicated account manager to help keep us on track and give us deadlines and goals, it really kept us formalized in what we had to do and really kind of helped us understand what the next step was beyond the step we had just completed. Not only that, but we're a business in an industry that's ever changing. We couldn't wait 2 years for a book to be published that we had just written. It would become outdated very quickly. So we needed to meet a specific short release date. And so those were some of the main reasons why we went ahead with self-publishing and went with Friesen. And from our end, finding them, I just kind of did a general search on Google around self-publishers, found them, did some background looking in on reviews and whatnot, had talks with them, and they were just a really great choice for us. So I want to talk a little bit about our launch strategy. Again, we're a franchise company. Our digital marketing consultants are our franchise offices around the world. Yearly, we put on this global convention. It's an internal conference that all of our consultants come to just learn more about digital marketing and the latest trends. And we were looking to launch our book at this global convention. And that year, it was happening at the end of August. And so our goal was to get it ready for there. That would have the biggest impact from a launch perspective just within our network. Plus, we could get everyone together to actually get their book signed by the authors, which was kind of a nice thing to have done. And we could really get books in the hands of our consultants, because that's really where we were looking to kind of expand the release of the book as well. So we actually did a large bulk order of books to bring the cost down on the individual books down for our consultants, so they could actually buy boxes of books and take them back with us and make it very easy for them to hand it out and give it away to their clients. So that was very important as part of our launch. We of course did all the standard social and PR promotion around the book that you would normally do. We included it on our websites. We use it as a thank you offer on our forum pages. And obviously our consultants help spread the word about our book. Now, we published our book in an ebook, softcover, and a hardcover format. And for our ebook on Amazon.com, we actually have it as a free download. Our goals, remember, were really around the book being primarily around getting our brand out there and showcasing our expertise. So we wanted to do that by getting the book in the hands of as many people as we could. And so doing a free download allowed us to do that. And it also allowed us to create some additional offers around the book that we could use and tap into. Like our consultants can give free offers around the ebook. We can have it on our site. So it just tied in really nicely. In addition, we're international. Remember, we're in 80 countries. We have various languages in our network, so we do continue to promote the book across those, and it's actually been currently translated into French, Portuguese, and Spanish. So that was all part of our launch strategy. Now, just to kind of go through some of the success that we've had with the book so far. I mean, like I said, it's just been 2 years. We've got a 4.5 out of 5-star rating on Amazon. If you go onto Amazon.com, search WSI Digital Minds, you'll see that. I've pulled just some of the testimonials we have listed there. So, you know, overall we're getting some really great feedback on the book, which is always nice. So we're seeing great success that way because it's being appreciated, and that also lends to our brand credibility as being an expert who could write on the subject. We've actually had it, I mean, we've had people blog about the book and do kind of feature articles on the book that way. We've actually also had people reach out to us if they could add it into their actual curriculum for digital marketing courses at universities and add it to their recommended reading list. So that's been a great way for us to keep the book out there. And I mean, overall, we've seen huge huge numbers on just our books sold. We're, as Tammara mentioned at the start, we are almost 80,000 books sold in just under 2 years, which is, as a trade technology book, we're really, really happy with. So because of all that, what's next for us? Can you just move ahead, yeah, to the next slide after this, Tammara? You know, we're of course looking to continue to leverage our book as part of our sales and marketing strategy. Because digital marketing is, like I mentioned, is very fast, it's ever changing. We're actually currently working on an updated and revised version of our book. Right now, and in anticipation where our second edition of the book will be released this fall, and we are working with FriesenPress on that. So overall, you know, we have been really happy with what has come out with our book and have found it to be a very effective tool for our business. And so that's a little bit about our story. Hopefully it resonates with some of you on the call. Tammara, I guess I'll pass it back over to you.
Great, thanks Cheryl, that's great information. So as I mentioned, you do have the ability joining the webinar to be able to submit questions to us, type them into your interface, and we're happy to answer them. we'll stay on for the next 10 or 15 minutes to answer the questions that have come in. So I've had some coming in already throughout. Cheryl, I will read them out and we can answer them accordingly.
Sure.
So the first question comes from David. What can you offer when the cover is done and the book is edited professionally? So David, certainly we often see authors come in where the editing is done. That's great. That's a great way to save money. But we're happy to do the editing in-house as well at FriesenPress. But if you have your cover done and your editing is done, you're really done step one of probably about 10 to 12 steps that are required to be able to publish a book. So we'd be happy to talk to you about what package we have that might be appropriate for you to finish up the process, have the interior of the book laid out and designed, and do all of the work required to be able to distribute it and order printed copies. So David, we would love to talk to you. Next question comes from Carl. Carl says, I have self-published 5 books for Kindle on Amazon and have completed 3 more and have 4 which will be completed by January 2016. Does WSI take on authors on a traditional contract basis? Is a discount available for multiple offerings? So I just want to clarify for the audience to make sure that you understand the difference between our two companies. So FriesenPress is the company that would help you with publishing and distributing your book. WSI is a digital marketing company that can assist you with your marketing needs, and they're talking about their experience using the book as a business card. So Carl, I'm not sure if you're wanting to talk about publishing your book. If you are, we are not a traditional publisher. You would need to send proposals out to traditional publishers to move down that path. If you're talking about WSI working with you from a digital marketing perspective, Cheryl, I'll let you jump in on that one.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely help you out. That's what we do. That's our bread and butter. So if you are looking for details around ways that you can leverage digital marketing to further promote your book, visit us at our website there, wsiworld.com. We have a get in touch with an expert form, and you can submit a request, and we'll connect you with a consultant.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. And so, Carl, you added on another question thereafter whether we would refer a great author to a literary agent or a publicist. I will say this, in the world of publishing, about 0.5% of the book proposals that are sent to traditional publishers are ever picked up. It is an incredibly competitive world to live within, and there is no rhyme or reason or prescribed formula for catching the attention of a traditional publisher. It really is about putting together a great proposal and sending it out to multiple publishers, and that's not something that FriesenPress does. As far as a literary agent, feel free to call in. We do have a list of literary agents that we work with that we'd be happy to recommend you to. Give us a call, and I'm happy to speak with you, Tammara Kennelly, and I will give you those contact details. So moving on to the next question, Marianne, you asked, does book as a business card apply to fiction as well? My book is a mystery thriller. So, Marianne, I guess I would say to you, what are your goals? What type of business are you trying to secure with your book? If you're telling me that you have told a compelling story, you're somebody that would be seen as a great storyteller, and you want to start to book speaking engagements, then I would say absolutely, that's a great way to showcase your storytelling skill. So really, it's about asking yourself, what end result do I want from this book? What type of business am I trying to book? And build your marketing plan around that. Cheryl, do you have anything to add to my response on that?
No, I mean, I think when it comes to doing any form of book, that's what we did is we just sat down and determined, well, what are we really trying to get out of our book? What's our end game and what are our goals? And so we could just make sure that we were meeting it, and we knew that our strategy was really going to lend well to this concept of a book being a business card.
Perfect. And so, Marianne, you've sent in a few more questions. So you're asking to elaborate on if this is more like a small brochure that flogs a writer's profile and work or not. So I want to reference back to the presentation, and we talked about the average trade paperback being about 50,000 words. and that this book is more like, 5,000 words, potentially 10,000. I would say it's not like a small brochure, but I would say that in our society today, people's attention span is shorter than ever. And so if you can take your compelling idea and put it into a short, very readable book, you're going to definitely generate more interest in a wider audience. Cheryl, as far as length is concerned, can you talk a little bit about your strategy around the length of Digital Minds?
Yeah, I mean, so ours is a little bit different than the trade publication. Ours is it's close to 45,000 words, but that's because we had 12, we were compiling 12 different authors. Probably each individual chapter that we wrote was around 3 to 4,000 words. So, it just depends on, I guess, how much you want to say and communicate. But the reason why we did a larger book is because a lot of the marketing books that we would be competing with or people would be comparing us to are a little bit more substantial in length, and so that was why we decided to go that way.
Great. And it's definitely a great strategy, Cheryl, for people that are not authors and writers to think about splitting up the work and having multiple authors and partnering with others that are in the industry that they might want to work with.
Yeah, it worked really well for us. And I can tell you, just value-wise, that our consultants who wrote the book saw, I had pretty much zero problem getting people to sign on to write updated chapters for our second book. The value is just there with the brand perception and the personal brand credibility with being an author in a book.
That's great. Good. And then finally, Marianne, how fast can we get your book to market? I always say if a book comes in and does not require editing, it takes about 3 months of work on our end to get your book out the door. If it requires editing, that definitely adds on a couple of months' time. We want to take our time to edit it very carefully and make sure it goes out very clean. So I would say more like 6 months. Having said that, that's our part of the work. And so sometimes where we find the process gets stalled is when we send a piece of work back to the author either to do or to make decisions on, and that's where sometimes the process can get stalled. So really the process moves along as quickly as the author moves along with us. Moving on to a question from Mark. You ask, does Amazon require a fee from the publisher to offer a free book download? So regardless of the price, Mark, that you make your book available for sale, whether that's free or whether there's a price associated with it, there is a distribution fee that is built into our royalty structure. And certainly if you download our author's guide, you'll see more information there about the royalty structure, or feel free to give us a call and we can discuss it with you by phone. So Sheila says, I'm an artist and I want to print a book with color photographs of my traveling exhibit, Oceans of Plastic, to bring attention to plastic pollutions in our oceans. I want to use the book with my proposals to other galleries and art museums for further exhibits, as well as other ways. I'm almost ready to publish it. So that's great, Sheila. It sounds like a really interesting book. I would say you definitely want to call in and talk to one of our publishing consultants around the best way to put your book together. It sounds somewhat like a bit of a coffee table book. Color books can be fairly expensive to produce and print, and books with a lot of pictures don't always lend themselves to ebooks. So I would say, Sheila, that you should probably call us and talk to us so that we can help you structure the project in a way that meets your goals. But it sounds fantastic. Thank you for your question. Joyce asks, can you put several children's stories together to create one book? Joyce, absolutely we can do it. It sounds like, a bit of a short story book. If you were wanting to have a number of books put together as one book, but to have a separate cover for each, etc., it might not lend itself well. But if it's a number of short stories that you're putting into one book, certainly we could do that. And again, I would say give us a call so we can talk to you about your individual needs and make sure that we help you structure the project the right way. Cheryl, I have a question here for you from Brian. He's asking, will the second edition be ready and available by September 11th, 2015?
Yeah, Brian must be one of our digital marketing consultants on the call because that is when we're having our global convention. And so we are, Brian, gearing towards a convention release and working towards that. So stay tuned and hopefully you'll be joining us in Miami to get your copy.
Great, good, exciting. So I'm on to the final question from Wendy. She asks, is there anything that we need to keep in mind when developing an ebook? And I would say, Wendy, you know, referencing back to my last answer with regards to books that have a lot of color or a lot of pictures, not great for an ebook. Generally, an ebook consists of words and perhaps, a few charts or graphs, but generally they're fairly text heavy. So I would say that's the only thing to keep in mind. Outside of that, the considerations for a print book are the same as for a good ebook. You want to have a really great, compelling cover. You don't want to try and tell your story with the cover, but you definitely want to grab the reader's eye. You want to have a great back cover because once people pick your book up because of the front cover, they're going to want to read the back, and it needs to be compelling marketing copy that draws them into reading your book. You want to make sure that the book is very, very well edited. There's nothing that's going to ruin your credibility more than a book that's poorly edited. And then, of course, making it widely available for sale, having a great distribution network available to you for distributing the book. So I would say the considerations for an ebook are fairly similar to that for a print book. And so finally, looking at the time, we're at 12:48. I'll take one last question from Connie. Connie asks, would you recommend an ebook over a physical book? And so from my perspective, I would say it really depends on your budget and your intention with the book. An ebook is very inexpensive to distribute. There's no cost around paper and ink, which is essentially what drives the cost of a print book. So an ebook is great. It's certainly, depending on your audience and their age and whether you feel they'll have a mobile device, that would drive your decision around ebook over physical book. I'm going to pass this over to Cheryl because I know they've had success with both. And Cheryl, what are your thoughts on the ebook versus the physical book?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would take a look at or consider who would be actually reading your book and what would make most sense for them. Um, we knew that people consume a lot on an ebook. We knew that that was going to be a great way for us to get our book into more people's hands. So we definitely wanted to have an ebook. And I mean, because we're a digital company, if we didn't have an ebook, that would kind of be contradictory. But also, we wanted the physical leave behind. So if you are actually wanting to drop your book off to people physically as a business card, it's a little bit more effective, we have found, with the physical book than the e-version. Just because the book sits on a bookshelf, it sits on a desk, it's just seen a little bit more. It has more branding awareness for us. So that's kind of why we went and did it. But you may just need to look at, what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve with the book after it's published.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cheryl. Well, that looks like that wraps up all of the questions. I hope that everybody has found this informative. I've really appreciated your time. Please know that we will be making this available on our YouTube channel if you want to revisit it at any point, and there will be a follow-up email following the webinar containing more information. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Cheryl, for sharing your expertise and your time. Much appreciated, and wishing everybody a wonderful day.
Great. Thanks for having me.